This is what you can do about taking control of your own health, a podcast for people interested in learning how to create bodies that are healthy, strong, fit, and disease resistant. I'm Sean McClendon. I'm a certified personal trainer, the host of this podcast, an author, and health and fitness enthusiast. Thank you for joining me today. The featured book for this episode is my book called 8 Weeks to Transform Your Diet and Your Health. You can have the best exercise program in the world, but if your diet is off, one thing is guaranteed: you will not see results. So in my book, 8 Weeks to Transform Your Diet and Your Health, I've created an easy to follow set of eating habits for you to adopt over 8 weeks to boost your health, promote fat loss, and get the most out of your exercise regimen. So when you finish this workbook, you'll finally know how to eat to get results. Look in the description below to find the link to get your copy of 8 Weeks to Transform Your Diet and Your Health. All right. In this episode, I want to talk about how sometimes if you're not getting good results, it's probably that you're not giving enough effort. And it might sound obvious what I'm saying, but please hear me out on this. This will not be a long episode. It's nighttime. I don't usually record at night. But I wanted to get this out before I head to bed. And also what I'm talking about is also another reason I need to get off of here pretty quickly, because I have to go do something for my health and fitness. But anyhow, so if you follow me, you know that I kind of talk about my own fitness journey and all that kind of stuff. One thing I aim to do every night is to stretch, and not just for like unwinding and stuff like that. Even though that's part of it. And by the way, the glasses are blue light blocking glasses. I use these whenever I have to use my computer at night. But anyhow, I stretch not just to unwind and all that type of thing, but also because I need to get more flexible. I have for such a long time had very inflexible hamstrings, and I've gotten them more limber like when I did in high school, and I have a couple of times since then. But being one who sits down in chairs a lot, if you know anything about that, you know that sitting down in chairs the way we do here in Western society is something that really, really tends to shorten your hamstrings, the muscles in the back of your thighs. And your not just those, but also like hip flexors and stuff like that. Excuse me. So it's very important to stretch those. And not only that, there's also a need for trunk flexibility. And whenever I talk about your trunk, I'm talking about like your midsection, kind of like where your abs and lower back and all that stuff are. Because one of the things I found when I was writing my other book, What You Can Do About High Blood Pressure, is that trunk inflexibility can be a contributor to hypertension, to high blood pressure. So that's another reason why it's important to have a flexible trunk where you can actually do a sit and reach test and be able to reach over and at least touch your toes. Okay. So yeah. So anyhow, stretching is one of the things I aim to do every night. I don't necessarily get to it every night. If I'm honest, I'm probably doing about maybe 3, sometimes 4 days a week, but I should be doing it every single night. And I'm getting there. But the reason why I'm talking about that is typically what I've done is, whatever type of stretches, I have my neck stretches where I'm, doing this number here, stretching back and sides, stretching like my lats by holding the wall and climbing up, arm across the chest, standing stretch where you reach to touch your toes, quad stretch where you grab an ankle and pull your ankle up to stretch the front of your thighs, calf stretch, and so on and so forth. Typically what I do is I'll do like 1 or 2 sets of anywhere between 15 and 30 seconds. Some parts of my body, like my especially like my quads, maybe like my back muscles when I do the arm across the chest and stuff like that. Some of those parts of my body are already probably decently flexible, at least just for like my daily need. Whereas again, my hamstrings are very inflexible, very inflexible, and they've gotten better, and but they're still not flexible enough to where I can like really comfortably reach over and touch my toes, especially when I do the sit and reach test on the floor. So, but I do like my 1 or 2 sets of 15 to 30 seconds of stretching. And so it kind of dawned on me at some point, like, am I really doing enough? Why do I do 1 or 2 sets of 15 to 30 seconds? And let me tell you why. The reason why I do is because that's what I learned coming up. That's what I learned, for example, maybe in like middle school PE, or what I read in some sort of book, you know, that I learned in health class or something like that, or a book, even like a book, like your standard run of the mill health and fitness book that says, stretch for 30 seconds and repeat twice. That's why I've done that. The reason why I'm bringing that up is because we have these different type of recommendations that people give us that we take as law. And while those recommendations may be good from the standpoint of encouraging you to do something and be consistent with it, and I'm all about consistency. I believe consistency for sure is the most important thing. Sometimes you simply are not putting enough effort in. So going back to my stretching, I can do all the 15 and 30 minute stretching I want to do. 15 and 30 second stretching I want to do. But that's not going to really move the needle at all. For me, even if I'm consistent, now what it will do is, however further I get during the 30 seconds, I'll maintain that. And I might get incrementally snail pace better over time. But it's not really doing that much. However, I realized I probably need to do 3 sets of 30 seconds. I need to actually push myself and feel a little more tension, not pain. You don't want to feel like bad pain when you're stretching, like to the point where you start feeling muscles rip and things like that. You've blown it at that point and probably need medical help. But I realize I need to kind of push myself a bit more, because the type of results I need or I want to get even relatively quickly, just the 2 sets of 15 to 30 seconds just simply wasn't cutting it. And so I put forth a little more effort, and I realized that it was working for me. I was getting flexible faster. I was doing that consistently, and I was getting flexible faster. Now, last week I was looking up some stretches for the neck to kind of like refine and improve my own repertoire, my personal repertoire of stretching. And I noticed, I was watching a YouTube video. It's a guy who's an expert in like stuff having to do with stretching your neck and like the cervical spine and all that kind of stuff. And he was showing through this lady that he was getting to demonstrate the stretches. He was showing how to do the stretches. And I noticed that he had the lady to start the stretch, and she was holding the stretch and holding it and holding it and holding it and holding it. And I promise you, she held that one stretch for at least 2 minutes. At least 2 minutes before she went to the next. So she had started going down like that for about 2 minutes, and then she switched and did the same thing, going to this side. And I'm not doing it all the way right here because that's not really the point of this podcast. But holding stretches for about 2 minutes. And that really kind of helped me think, like, you know what, man? I'm just so used to making rules out of what somebody else said, the minimum that somebody else said. And sometimes the recommendations that people give are like the absolute minimum. And they're not necessarily, like I say, they're not really law. It's not anything that says that just because everybody needs to do this. It's just that's how we take it. And so therefore, I mean, that might be plenty for one person, but it may not be plenty for you. And so I realized that's the kind of stretching that I need to be doing. And so that's why I'm going to end this podcast really quickly, because I need to go and stretch, and I need enough time to like make sure I can kind of stretch well before I go to bed so I can get limber and flexible as I desire. So the way I want to bring this home is I want you to think. Now, of course, don't get me wrong. Be careful. I'm not saying that you need to go, for example, and like, okay, well, I need to rapidly increase my weight. I've been doing 100-pound bench press, so I'm gonna go ahead and put 200 on the bar because Sean said I need to put more effort in. That's not what I'm talking about. Like, that's just really unwise. Or saying, well, I've been doing 30 minutes a day of running, so I need to go ahead and start running marathons. I need to run like 20 miles a day or some weird stuff like that. I'm not saying anything like that, because the kind of effort I'm talking about is not something that kind of like obviously puts you in danger. Especially stretching. Stretching is not that type of thing unless I'm doing some weird, like really, really ultra ballistic stretching and stuff like that. But understand, some of the things that you've read, some of the things that you've learned about exercise, about eating and whatnot, they are kind of prescribed. They're kind of minimum. Okay? Again, make sure you check with your doctor. Make sure you get advice from, maybe a personal trainer like myself or nutritionist, whatever the area is. Do your research. Don't be unwise. But even, for example, let me give a better example. Like, say, for example, like one of the things I recommend people to do is to start walking. Before you do any other exercise, start walking and be consistent with it. Start with 5 minutes a day. My only reason for doing that is not necessarily because you get a lot of results, because you probably won't get a whole lot, but you have to train yourself to be consistent. Because if you can be consistent in something, that's how you know that you'll be a person who can get results, because the consistency is what brings the results. Now, if you remain at that 5 minutes a day, after the first week or two of consistency, then I'm sure you're not going to see anything. You're not going to see any results. You might increase to 10 minutes a week. You might see a little bit of more results, and that's it. Well, walking is one of those low intensity type of things that you can really ramp up. And to be honest, as long as you are constantly increasing, you could probably easily do like an hour and a half or something like that. And that'll be the type of thing that help you to see results from that. But my point is, we kind of see, okay, 30 minutes, 3 days a week, some sort of like standard stiff recommendation that we read somewhere, and we'll count that as law, and we'll end up kind of knocking ourselves out of results. Or we might just be kind of being real cautious, or being kind of honestly maybe lazy or something like that, where we don't really want to do a whole lot. So we just do enough to say that we did something, only to be disappointed because we're still not reaching our goals. So that's kind of like where I've been, it's kind of been like, well, let me do what I read in the book in gym class or something like that in 30 seconds, twice, 2 reps. And that's just not doing it for me. Somebody who's as tall as I am, I'm 6'2", and who's as stiff as I am, that amount of reps and time is just not cutting it. So I need to be more persistent. I need to put forth a bit more effort, and I need to be not scared to feel a little bit more tension in those muscles, not bad pain, but a little more tension, so that I can get the results that I want to get. I don't want to be the type of person who, well, yeah, I stretch every night, but then I'm just still stiff as a board because I'm not really doing what I need to do. Main thing is, a lot of times the recommendations and things that we read in books and whatnot, they're like a good starting ground. Know yourself, know your body, but don't take a lot of that stuff as law. You have to learn what works for you. And sometimes that means You need to put in more effort to get results for your body. Don't just do whatever prescribed thing because somebody else does it or because some book recommended it, because it might not be enough for you. And I will say on the flip side, it could even also be too much, depending on what you're looking at. So hopefully you get the heart of what I'm saying. Hopefully this has been helpful. Remember, the information on this podcast is based on personal research and opinion, and is not meant to be a substitute for advice from a doctor or a physician. You are advised to consult your doctor or physician before making any changes to your lifestyle. Use wisdom. That does it for this episode. I'm going to go make sure I get my stretches in. Let me know what you think about this. You think you're putting forth enough effort to get results? Comment below. Let me know what you're thinking. Subscribe, like, share. Don't forget to get your copy of 8 Weeks to Transform Your Diet and Your Health. And always remember, your doctor is not responsible for your health. You are. God bless you.